In this video, I'm going to talk about what it means to polish your game. After reviewing some professional resources out there, I've come to learn that polish means something a little different to everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Justice. I'm an independent game developer. If you're new, perhaps you consider subscribing or maybe just give me a like on the video. Polish is different than juice. Juice is the feel of the game, the wiggly and jiggly bits. Though polish and juice are closely related, in this video I'm going to focus on polish. The juice video is coming later. Polish is the act of making sure every function works as expected. All the UI clicks do what they're supposed to do, and there's also an element of making sure the controller feels right. When I think of polish, there's two phases. First, there's the phase of scripting your objects and making them do the thing they're supposed to do, and at that point you can apply some polish. And then there's the second phase where everything's got to come together in your game as it nears completion, and that's where I am with the racing game. So here we are in the garage scene. We'll go ahead and play through this, and what I want to show you guys is that the car stats are now in and completed, so you can see there's top speed, acceleration, handling, braking, and traction. There's also a track selector. Now the tracks aren't in and or built yet, but if I were to click on a track, it highlights it and lets the player know that that track is selected and that it's owned. So if there's a fee involved in buying that track, or maybe you have to pay to race in it, I can add that at a later time without updating the UI at all. So this is UI polish, and this is what I'm looking for. I've got 7 tracks in there for now. Whether or not I want to use them, we'll see. It might only be 5 tracks in the whole game. Every car body is also set up. So I've got the rally car, it's just dummy names I've put in. I've got the sports car, and if I don't have it purchased, it says preview only with the option to buy it. If I don't have enough money, this changes from buy it to something that just says race more to earn more money, basically. You can see that the car stats also change. So if I change from sports car to the Porsche car, it's got its own stats that will change and update based on the... I just made it up, just based on whatever I made up for that car. And if I go back to sports car, because I don't own it, it says preview and then buy it. And if I go to the Blitz car, it says, hey, here's this Blitz car, here's its stats, and truck car is the same way, or the truck is the same way. Now if I do buy it, it should turn this green. It may not turn this green because it's not loaded yet, and it should change this from Blitz to truck, and the stats should stay the same. There we go. So I've bought the truck. That functionality works. I've changed the names of the colors to be more customized for me. So we've got Abyss is black, Emerald is the green color, Ocean is blue, Rose is like a pink color, Pearl is white, Cardinal is the red one, and Yellow is Sunrise. I just felt like it was kind of cool to name those something a little different. I've still got to play with and tweak the size of these because they don't really fit inside that box, but I want to make them visible, so I got to make sure that they're of a certain size. And yeah, that's what the UI is looking like. So we're going to cover what each of these flow graphs and functions looks like on the back end. So let's take a look at some of the updates first. This preview game object is real simple. I'm going to go ahead and activate it. It's just a Text Mesh Pro object that says preview only. I might even change that to just the word preview, but for now I'm going to leave it preview only. I'll decide that later. And it's hidden by default. And then we also have not enough money, which is hidden. So this is that earn more money to buy. And then in the functionality is going to show this or the buy it button if there is enough money to buy it. So we're going to look at the buy it button. I'll activate it. It just simply says buy it, and that's it. Real easy. The flow graph for the buy it button though is pretty specific for what we want it to do. So it's going to, on click, it's going to run through basically an if statement. So there's a series of branches here are an if statement, and I like to structure them left to right like this so I know exactly what's happening. And what it does, it says if the sports car is active, then execute this line. If the Porsche is active, if the Blitz car is active. So it's in successive order which car body is active. Only one of these can be true by design. So it's not like we'll run into a situation where there are multiple car bodies that are these game objects. And then each of them has on the game object itself, it's got a custom argument for buying the car body. So it runs through each of these game objects. Now you could grab the game object once and draw a big old line across the whole thing. I didn't do that. I just went with the one simple option here. And then no matter what happens at the end, it's going to disable the buy it button and the preview. If the user selects one, it's going to activate those two, and then this flow graph is going to deactivate the buy it button and the preview button. Real simple. We'll take a look at the one of these car bodies, the buy car body option. So to keep it simple, I put all of the logic in the body style panel UI element. So there it is. Almost all of the logic is in here. So remember, it's a scroll view, so we've got to go into the viewport, and what I called car bodies. All of the car bodies are here, so it's a pretty big flow graph. That's not that big, it's okay. This is for rally car. Okay, rally car is the only one that's different, because the rally car is the starting car. The player can never buy it or not. So anytime they click on rally car they wouldn't be able to just see it or preview it. And I'm going to activate that and just leave it active for the sake of this tutorial. So if they ever click on rally car, there is no option to buy it. So these by default are going to be turned off. So that's why that's there. And then again, it runs through this if statement. Now there could be a more elegant way to do this using game object variables or tags that loop through and then turn everybody off and then turn on the one for the object in question. But for the sake of what I'm doing, I wanted to know and troubleshoot along the way which was and wasn't working. So, and because this only runs on certain UI clicks, it's not going to be a performance degradation. So I didn't mind that at all. And then I can just go through and click the actual body I wanted active. And then it's going to change the text only to rally car, right? So it's going to set that text. It's going to play my one shot for the click, and then it's going to set a variable, which is a saved variable over here on the side, for rally car active. So this is how I determine which body car should be active, and also which set of stats to apply to the car when the race loads. I'll cover that in the next video. So again, shameless plug, make sure you subscribe. But I will cover how I did that in the next video, where it's going to load based on this variable, in a much similar fashion to my manual if statement over here, my manual branch statement. And it's going to set deactive all of these other ones. And so this is the simplest version of this flow graph here. The other ones that are all the same, so this is the rally car, we'll go to the sports car version. And this is what it looks like for all of the other ones, where we want to check and see if it's owned and then set up the preview. So on click of this UI element, it's going to say, okay, is the sports car even owned? If it is, then we're going to hide the buy it button, and then we're going to hide the preview button, right? If not, we are going to follow the tree on downwards. We're going to set the preview only to active, and then we're going to preview the model and see if the player has enough money. The second thing we're going to do in this branch up here, if sports car is owned, it's going to deactivate the buy it button, and the not enough money also has to be deactivated, and the preview is also deactivated. So those three things get deactivated, and then we're going to jump all the way over here to set the car body to active. We're going to bypass purchase and set, but we don't need to buy the car body because it's already owned, right? So it's going to bypass this whole flow graph. This flow graph is triggered on a custom event anyway. We'll get to that in a minute. We're going to set the car body to active. So we're going to play our one shot, our noise that just like knocks just makes a quick little noise. And we're going to set the specific car body of sports car to active. Again, there's a little bit more elegant way of doing this, but this works for me, so I kept it in place. And then this looks a whole lot familiar, right? This is what we just saw in rally car. So it's going to set the text to sports car. We're going to activate sports car, or we're going to set the variable of sports car body active to true and set all of the other bodies to false. Now, I kept Sky Car in there from troubleshooting, but I took it out of the list of cars to pick from. I felt like it was I don't want to use it. So what we're going to do is in the preview window, we are going to check and see if the player has enough money to buy the car. So first of all, we're going to, it's going to set the sports car to active and deactivate the other bodies only, but it's not going to flow through any of the other graphs to play a noise or trigger the purchase or set anything else. Once it's done looping through the car bodies, that's going to say, okay, let's look at this branch. Is the player's money greater than the price of this object? So it's got a price saved in the UI element of, right now it's $2,500. I might leave it that way. And if price is greater than, then we are going to show the buy it button, and we're going to change the buy it border to green. This is unnecessary. I could just make the buy it border green. It actually doesn't need to be set at runtime, but it's not hurting anything, so I'm just going to leave it there. And if we don't have enough money, we are going to set not enough money to be the active game object. So as the player previews this, it's going to check and see if they have enough money to buy it. And if not, it's going to show them, hey, go on more money. This is the option to show everything. Okay, so this isn't the option to buy it. So we want to purchase and set the body, save the variable that they've purchased this one. This is controlled in the buy it button. So we kind of covered this a little bit earlier, but if we look at the buy it button, again, this buy car body. So if the button appears and they click it, it will execute. So the key is controlling whether or not the button even appears for the player to do that. So the player is going to click on buy the sports car. This is going to fire off in the sports car game object for the UI element here, and it's going to say, okay, we want to buy it. We're going to make a cha-ching sound because that identifies to the player that they've lost money. We're going to set sports car owned to true, which is going to prevent them from having to buy it twice, right? So with me so far? Cool. And then we're going to subtract the price of the game object from money, and we're going to set the money to that math, just deduct the money from the player's saved money, and then we are going to set the price. So in the UI, it's going to have the price, and if they own it, it's going to change that to the word owned. So that way we know that the player actually owns that game object or car in this case. And then it's going to execute in this flow tree again. So this is the recurring flow tree. So it's tied off from this node right down here, and it's going to just execute on forward, right? So we don't have to play the clicking noise. That's why the clicking noise is here. And this executable pin comes down into the tree that's going to set the correct body active. Now, I did copy and paste this entire flow graph into all of the car bodies, but I did have to go through and make sure I checked all of the boxes correctly for the game body, or for the game object for the car body that I wanted to. Only in the orange and the blue and the black. So I had to go through orange, blue, and black and just make sure that I had the right check boxes where I wanted them. Like I said, there could be a more elegant way to do it, but as I was troubleshooting, I wanted to make sure I had it right. And so that's how I was able to change the setting of the car body. And maybe I won't even show the whole thing here, but in the viewport, what I wanted to do is show you guys how I did this part. Instead of changing the material, I actually just changed the color of the material. So I had two variables saved, because you can't save a game object into the saved variable system. This is in player preferences. I called it a color selected, which is the string, the word that I chose to name the color. And so it sets these two variables, and that's a lot easier. And then it applies that color. Actually, the color is applied to the material in real time. It's actually really neat. And that color change happens in the car game object, where we set the color. It's just on the update, it's just going to set the body material, which is, I cannibalized this body matte green material, and it's going to set that material's color to whatever color the player selected. It's a lot more cleaner way to do it for me. I also have this option here. If we're loading the game for the first time, it's going to set the color to Pearl. In other words, if the color and the string are null, actually just if the color selected is null, execute the color, we're just going to change it to Pearl. So the first color they get is going to be the white Pearl color. And then down here, this is where we set the active body. Actually, this is just where we set the active body now, because we already took care of the color. So this used to be a much bigger flow graph, and now it's not, because the color is handled a little differently. And it's going to grab whichever, it's going to loop through this first set of branches. So it's, again, just an if statement. It's going to find the first active car body. Only one can be active at a time. And it's going to activate the corresponding game object for the body and set the text to whatever I had chosen here. This is a one-of-one flow graph, so I don't have to worry about copying and pasting and updating this later. And that's how I handled car bodies and colors. The next thing I did was the car stats. So I've got a car stats window here. And this is what handles the just the stats, basically. So what I did, again, I had another flow graph where I think this one's actually much cleaner than the other one. So on the update, this is going to, okay, so first of all, there's one of these for each stat. There's top speed, acceleration, handling, braking, and traction, okay? It's going to get the game object of each of the cars, and it's going to get the object variable stored in the car body, basically, and then set itself to whatever car body is active. Now, it's important to note that this is not based on the variable for which car is active. So down here, I have all the active car bodies. These can't be involved in this equation, because then the car stats won't change if I'm previewing a car model. Does that make sense? So if I own the truck and I have the Blitz car previewed, that's a bad example. I own the Blitz car and I'm previewing the truck, I would only see the Blitz car stats if Blitz car was active, right? So like right here, something like that. Now, this way I'm actually checking to see if the game object is active, because that's how the preview is set. So anyway, it's going to look in each of their object variables and assign its whatever that object variable is to itself. And then I have this flow graph here for the update. It's just going to colorize whatever the numbers are, and this is hard coded. There's nothing dynamic about this. If it's there, no car has a 1 value, so it's either 2, 3, 4, or 5. And the reason they're in this order is because I played with the color scheme a little bit. So I just wanted to go from 2 is red, 3 is orange, 4 is a little lighter green, and 5 is bright green. And I didn't have to mess with this ever again. Now, something to note. The string values here, these are just capital I's. So they look like slashes, so they're just capital I's, and I think they're italic in the interface, so they look kind of cool. And that's it. I did this once for each of the metrics. So we've got one for top speed, acceleration. That's the same thing, right? We're just going to grab the acceleration score. We're going to grab the handling score. This is the only change in the entire flow graph, real simple. And then if we go up to the actual car bodies, we can see that the cars have all these variables here. This is where they're set. So I could change them on the car body in real time, and they would update the car stats. Again, they're just capital I's, and it's a string match. So if I just got to be careful and make sure it's either 2, 3, 4, or 5. And I actually made sure each car has a 2 and a 5, and they're all different. So it's just something I made up for the game. The rally car has the highest, should have the highest traction and the lowest top speed, which I'm playing with. I don't know if I like it having the lowest top speed, but I might mess with that a little bit later. The Blitz car has I think like the highest braking, because I had to have high something. The Porsche car has the highest handling. Sports car has the highest acceleration. I give the pickup the highest top speed but the lowest acceleration. I figured once it gets going, it's like a freight train. I don't know. It's just what I made up. Yeah, so I think it covers pretty much everything for the UI. It's starting to look a whole lot like a game we can start to play. The other thing I did, just as a UI cleanup, in the other scene for, if we go into the racing scene, the actual level scene, I think I covered the pause menu and the end screen already, but if we open up, I'll just turn it on. I won't worry about do the pause menu. Yeah, so I made all of these buttons the same button style. It's just that that source image changed to SF background or something like that. Real simple. Yeah, SF button dash hover. So I just cleaning up everything, making it a little more consistent, and that covers everything I did in this video. So in the next video I cover will be the actual gameplay polish, and that might take a little bit more time. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and if you take a look at this video here, you will see how I applied polish in a different game, which is a 2D side-scrolling game. And at this point, you may as well subscribe. You're making it all the way through the video, which I thank you for.